This is The Blueprint with Andrea Smith. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. I am your host, Andrea Smith, and I have created this podcast so you too can build your wealth through real estate and business ownership. I have several decades of building wealth-generating assets, either real estate holdings or businesses. I am a wife, a mother of 5, and I cannot wait to get started building your wealth with you. All right, welcome back. This is episode 3. I'm Andrea Smith and your host. Today we're going to get really tactical about what does it mean to actually, what are the pillars for a strategic acquisition of real estate, both for your own personal portfolio or for the portfolio of your company. Let's get into it.
I'm really excited about this today because we talked a little bit in our last episode, kind of high-level concepts, like the mindsets you need to have, maybe a little bit more about, all the wealth transfer that's happening. Now I want to buy a business. So today it sounds like we're going to get into exactly how that works and what you should be thinking about. So I'm curious, you have talked a little bit about how there's a little bit of a mirror between what you see on the corporate side and the individual side. And on individuals can be house rich and cash poor. How does that look sometimes on the corporate side from what you've seen?
Oh, very similar. So to understand my perspective and the words that'll come out of my mouth, you really need to kind of know where I came from. So in the first episode, we talked a little bit about how my mom was always giving back to the community, called to be a social worker, working in the church, those sorts of things, not a whole lot of money. So when I launched into what I thought was going to be my prosperous career as a W-2, a mechanical engineer, I was launching into a completely different mindset for myself. Now, my mom always paid bills. She taught me how to leverage debt very effectively, and she's always been very good steward of the money she had. So to come from college debt when I launched my own adult career, and most of us are now starting with negative money, understanding how to get that liability back into a cash flow is very similar to what a business does. Every podcast that you listen to when it comes to business is all about cash is king. Cash flow is the number one thing that will lead you into emotional wreck if you're not keeping up on the cash in and cash out of your business. If you run out of cash and you've overextended yourself because of a large corporate headquarters or some additional or change in your surrounding that costs more than what your long-term projection of your cash flow is, it will run your business to the ground. And a lot of individuals, more individuals than business owners, you have the opportunity to become house rich but cash poor. And so you're working to pay the mortgage.
And so many of us think that maybe if you have a big house, you must have this great investment, right? So is that false thinking? Tell us a little bit about what that means.
Yeah. If I could give you permission, anybody who's listening, you have permission not to keep up with the Joneses.
It's hard to do.
You do not need to have, and what was for me, the black silver tabs that you would wear around your hips and dance like Janet Jackson.
Okay.
I give you permission to not have the matching black silver tabs as everybody else.
Yeah.
Because
this morning my son said, "Mom, my Crocs don't have the crocodile on them." And I said, "Well, that's okay." And he said, "Well, no, it means they're not Crocs." And I was like, "Okay, here we go. It starts here."
It does. It starts there. So I was thinking even today, just to personalize it, it kind of feels like when you're talking and getting into wealth, and I was never perfect, but having an understanding of your story with wealth, it's a lot like your relationship with money is your relationship with alcohol or any type of substance, is that the first time you get it when you don't have any. So some of you who have had money your whole life, maybe this won't resonate, but when you don't have money and you get money for the first time, it's exhilarating and you get this like euphoric feeling. I'm free. And then you get that same amount of money and it just doesn't do quite as much. And so you need a little bit more and then more and then more. And
how do you get out of that trap?
Yeah. And so it's very similar to when you find a drug or alcohol where that first time you have an alcohol, oh, it's a little tipsy. Maybe second one, third one, the next time, and to feel the same way. You get to a point where it doesn't matter what level of alcohol you're ingesting, you just never reach it. So just understand that money is a tool, and that the more you receive of it, or the more that you are seeking it, that it isn't the money. The money is good for the good that money can do. And if you can keep your mindset in a healthy relationship with wealth generation and with money, you will save yourself all kinds of headache. So let's start with this higher idea that we aren't creating piles of money to swim in like Donald Duck, or I guess it's not Donald Duck.
Uncle
Scrooge.
It's Scrooge McDuck, I think.
Scrooge
maybe
McDuck,
that's like we're kind of
yes.
dating ourselves here by going back that far. But yeah, I think you're right.
Let's call that wisdom.
So how do you, I like the way you said that. So how do you, as a corporation or as a business, how do you make sure you have the right mindset? Because I always feel everywhere that, and I've been a W-2 for a long time before kind of starting off on my own here.
Yes.
Everything was always like, if it no ROI, we're like, that's kind of the CFO calls the shots. And if there's no ROI, then we don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you think in a different way?
Yeah. So choose who you're serving, right? So we're all serving a master. And when you're serving whatever company you're serving, understand your master.
Yeah.
Even when I am working for a client as an owner's rep, I understand my master. I understand what they are, what's important to them, what are their hot buttons, what are they trying to accomplish with whatever we are trying to accomplish, and understand your master. On the W-2 side, if you're working for private equity, if you're working for a publicly traded company, you're working for that master, and your job is to create the largest dividend for your stakeholders and the people who own the shares. Know that.
Yeah.
So that way you don't emotionally invest that you want to be able to divert all of these proceeds in order to go to your best charity and create the best community. So just know what bed you're getting into.
Yeah, that's really smart. So one other quick thing before we move on to the next topic here is just when you think about the future, how do you make sure that you're buying for future flexibility? What does that mean?
Yes. So we alluded to it a bit about not overextending your cash flow. You want to ensure that you can pay the mortgage, but then have a bunch of cash in case the moat that we talk about goes away, or there's new competition that enters your market, and there's like the things that are out of your control. You want to have a pot of money that is rejuvenating on a periodic basis, so monthly or whatever you're getting paid from your clients, or daily, or however that is circling over. That's your cash flow optimization.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you aren't overextending that. So if you run into a risk that we help you identify, you have the money to cover that risk until you can pull and reallocate your assets or retool your revenue streams, so you are prepared to grow again. And you have to have that pot of money, both personally and for your business.
Right.
So you're not going into bankruptcy and selling your home.
So you don't get stuck.
You don't get stuck.
Yeah. So let's talk specifically about your framework. I would love for you to maybe explain to me, you have 4 pillars you think of as for your strategic real estate thinking. Can you tell me about those 4 pillars?
Absolutely. So always start with the end in mind. Who said that originally?
I don't know, but
it's not mine.
Yeah.
Start with the end in mind. Is it Simon Sinek?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it predates Simon Sinek.
Okay. Whoever is listening to this and knows, just put it in the comments.
There you go. I like
that. That would be wonderful. So start with the end in mind. When Dan and I started Sodak HVAC, it's because we're really passionate about how buildings breathe and the indoor air quality that we are living in. And we want to make sure that people are really comfortable. We also don't want to do that forever. We want to create an asset that is a sellable asset. So start with the end in mind. in order for us to have an asset that is a wealth generating asset for us, we had to have it do 4 things for us. It needs to have a cash flow just for ourselves as the shareholders, but also so we can pay the families that now we are responsible for as providing work for the people who have entrusted their future with us. We have to balance whatever liabilities we're bringing on to that cash flow to ensure that we still have that pocket of money in case something happens. We want to make sure that we can still make payroll and our obligations. And then we actually, in cash flow optimization, we go through different models that if we were to take on a new shop or do something differently with how we are storing our materials or purchasing our materials, how would that affect the pot of money that we have to have in place in order to make payroll? So cash flow optimization
Sounds
is
like a
number
lot of
1.
spreadsheets and air tables and things.
Isn't that wonderful? Yes.
Good.
Music. Yes. So that's where we love to live. Liquidity management, maintaining emergency funds, and then not overstraining our working capital. So making sure that we have cash flow coming in and coming out and that we're managing our liquidity. If we have some interim based things that are creating money for us, so say it's a T-bond and we can lock it up for a period of time, or we're putting it into a CD so it can create some, but it's not in real estate because real estate turns over a lot slower. Maybe that's one strategy we can put for liquidity. And then, of course, just the solid cash that is available to us for every day.
Sure.
Third is our scalability planning. So how can we expand or contract for future business or subcontract with future clients? How can we scale this business in a way that it's not completely dependent on Dan or myself, depending on the business? One example of that in our life for Advice to Build is I have met my capacity as an individual. We now have processes in place and a projection of where we would love to serve our clients. It's now time to bring on partners, those A-team members that can take these processes and really enhance them and multiply them across their networks as well. So scalability, how are we getting how we do work and how we think into a way that it can be multiplied? And then 4, starting with the end in mind, what is our exit strategy? How are we ensuring that this is an asset that not just the real estate that is, but that this business is an asset that we can also sell, that it would be valuable to someone in the future?
You know, I keep hearing how you're weaving, you have some very specific, processes that you follow, but you also weave a lot of mindset and big thinking into what you're doing. It sounds like as you think about just from you've mentioned a couple of times, like you're taking care of other people's families, like just the responsibility of it. I can tell you take really seriously as yourself, but also, likely advising other people in the same way as you work with them. So that is certainly something I hear from you. It's woven in through the conversation. I admire that. I really do.
Thank you.
So talk to me a little bit about how different market, we're right now there, you mentioned a little bit about the tariffs and the interest rates and things like that. How do those, markets affect your strategic opportunities? Like what should we be thinking about now if you're, considering real estate as a prosperity engine?
Yes. So okay, but when I look at real estate not as a way to get rich, because I am good at creating an asset. In fact, I'm great at building an asset and holding it in the long term.
Okay.
It's not one of those that I'm not good at the flips in real estate.
Got it.
I have people that I'll refer you to if you really want to get into the flip market. So when I look at a real estate investment, I look at it as a asset that you plan on using either for your own or for some sort of cash flow to hold your wealth. So
it.
you have this business. This is about the real estate part of the business. You want to hold that wealth in a somewhat protected revenue stream.
Okay.
Now, you could just have that wealth cash it out and put it in your mattress, which would be completely idiotic. Don't do that. I'm not advising that, but that is a solution. You could just put it in a safety deposit box for your offspring to find someday in the future, and it'll completely depreciate every single year.
Sure.
What we're trying to do, though, is to make sure that it's in an appreciable asset. So if it's worth $10 today, it's going to be worth the equivalent of $10 next year and the equivalent of $10 5 years from then. So I'm not going to do the math in my head, but for those individuals who do not know or haven't been introduced to that yet, it's the time value of money. And it gets complicated with inflation rates, and then interest rates play into the inflation index. All of those things we can get into probably in future podcasts. But what we want to do is protect that wealth so it is worth the same or more in a future date.
How does having that wealth be worth the same help you in a future date? If you're putting it in the mattress, you're putting it in the mattress, it will go the exact opposite way. Right.
And so all of us are in this, if you're listening to this podcast, are in this to create a legacy for ourselves and for our offspring and those that we care about. If you're giving it away to charity, that's amazing as well. We would want to protect that wealth in a way that it is worth the same or more as when I created it or when we created it.
Got it. So as you think about, the specifically like a practical implementation, right? So, and when I didn't realize that. Do corporations flip real estate? What does that look like? Give me that example.
A corporation that flips at, there
are a developer, I suppose. Yeah,
there are I have some really, Sodak HVAC has some really incredible clients that flip houses.
Okay.
They have really rundown properties. They reinvest in them and then they sell it out to a more inhabitable home.
Okay.
And so and they do a really, really great job at it. You have to be really good at doing that. I've gotten really good at honing big, complicated projects.
Sure.
You have to get really good at that. So
that's a whole different country, isn't it? Because you have to know exactly. You have to be able to spot and say like, oh, this is going to cost this much, and I'll be able to rent it for this much, and do that math kind of in your head and be pretty good at that. I suppose take some time.
Yeah.
So tell me specifically, if you're an individual, and you'd mentioned earlier about if you're an individual and maybe you're not a business owner, but you need to think about your life almost as a business, or your house and all of your income as a business.
Yeah.
How would you take a corporate approach to home buying? What does that look like?
Home buying or commercial real estate buying or?
So you'd mentioned, if you are a homeowner, you need to think about this as a business owner. So how do you treat your home buying like a corporate acquisition?
Ah, good. Okay, I understand the question now. For me, coming from negative money, which most of us are in that situation now with college debt or debt just to get up on your feet, I tracked my cash flow and like a budget, like a very tight budget, and it was very tight to begin with. If you approach buying a home, so you're looking for liquidity in the same way that a business does, you're buying a home that may not be at the max of what you can leverage. So I can take out X amount. I'm actually going to take out X amount minus I would like to take my family on vacation each year. And if I have to let go of the vacation, it's better than having to let go of the house.
Yeah.
So X minus a vacation.
So how do you model that out? Because I think a lot of us have struggled. Like many of us go to the bank and they say, how much do you make? What's your debt? Okay, here's your ratios. You can buy this much house. And we go, okay, cool. We go to the realtor and say, I can buy this much house. How do you model that out in a way that makes sense? Is there ideas for that for
the individuals that are coming to us for real estate? If you're coming I don't usually get into the personal finances
Sure.
of individuals. It's just, it gets a little bit even more personal than when we get into business finances of a business owner.
Sure.
And so I would just advise that when you look at your ins and outs, your revenue, that even as an individual, you have to have multiple revenue streams. Whether that's because you're married and there's two incomes, whether you're married or you aren't married and you are in like a friendship and you have a roommate, there's multiple income streams, or you have more than one job in case you're not getting enough hours, or that sort of makeup, is that you want to make as many levers for yourself financially as possible so you can still enjoy your life.
Right.
And in a corporate side, it's similar, where really strong businesses are usually not monopolies with one revenue stream and you're depending on one customer. It's usually a list of customers and they are providing a percentage of your income.
Right.
If really healthy businesses have started to invest in real estate, well, now you have maybe a little or big income from real estate as well. We start modeling that for businesses. The individual should do the same thing.
Sure. One thing that's interesting, and I know that I've done this personally, where you've talked about like you don't want to fall in love with a specific property or a specific, you got to think about some of these other ownership costs, because I'll look at something and I'll be like, oh, that would be so perfect. Look at the light, look at the traffic, like this is it. And maybe not the smartest financial decisions. So can you talk to me about what that looks like on, as you think about whether it's corporate, a company or a person, it's easy to fall in love with the property and it's easy to get stuck in that thinking. So how do you help people think differently about those things?
My only loser real estate investment is the one that when I was a little girl, I wanted to be on this certain lake.
Yeah.
And that's my only loser. Like,
it's frustrating.
It's so frustrating because I'm like, I had this vision of what it looked like.
Yeah.
And it just, you make it up in your head. It's not actually what the real data is telling you.
Yeah.
And so maybe reserve a little bit of that and understand in theory, this is what I would like to provide for the world. And then look at the world to see where it's at versus creating this idea of, I really want this in this location and it must look like this. And this many people should and will be part of this with me. Because if it's all in your head, you can go real fast into bankruptcy by yourself.
Or you could say, maybe if you are in a position where financially you can say, I really want it. I know it might lose money, but this is like going to fill me up in some way. Like maybe that you just know, like that's a bad decision.
And corporately, like, the real wealth builders.
Yeah.
And I always have to remind us to talk through like how you track this. So when you look back, you can always like create bumpers for yourself. So you're not going into an emotional roller coaster. But there are some people who have the American dream and our corporate tax structure is written in a way, it's just like the strategic game that we're playing. Is the rules are written in a way that sometimes having a loser in your portfolio is the right choice. Because tax wise, it would be benefit you as a
and I've seen that. I've heard people talk about that. Like, I bought this business. I don't know. It's okay if it doesn't do great, right? And you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Some people who have $500, that $500 is really, really important. We take that really, really important. Because I came from that $500 was super important. I apply that in the benefit of my owners that are like, $500, just pay it.
Yeah.
Because some people, the value is, I don't have to talk about that $500. So it really depends on the situation.
Sure. That makes sense. So what are some, as we think about individuals or mostly companies, right? That's really what we're talking about, but they do mirror each other in many ways. What are some action steps that I really should think about, as we wrap this segment up around, just some of the implementation things? So you've mentioned in some ways almost a checklist.
Yes, I should create a checklist and attach it to this. So
yeah, that's a good idea.
We should come up with that. I should come up with that. So
yeah.
Really, it's understanding to check your emotional versus your strategic decisions, and maybe this is a great time to talk about that. Is that taking in our course, or when you go through coaching with us, you take a full accounting of where you are today.
Okay.
And project in, like any strategic planner, where you want to be in 5, 10, 15 years. With technology, we're playing around with the idea that you might need a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, but we will see how that plays out with the AI integration.
Okay.
But, and then review that yearly.
Okay.
Like, because my dream today and what I'm living today was my stretch goal 10 years ago. I mean, it has far surpassed the vision I had for my life when I graduated college. And part of that was because of the mindset. You'd lay the yellow brick road, then you just walk the yellow brick road.
Right. It doesn't feel like you're walking the yellow brick road some days. It feels like you're somewhere you don't know where you're at.
Yes. And as an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, God, have I lost my way? But I'm not a big journaler. Yeah. And I convert it all to numbers and spreadsheets. But to me, just taking stock that I'm super blessed. If I lose track, I could lose it all, and be super grateful in the moment, because I am leaps and bounds further than I was before, because we're not going to keep up with the Joneses. We are just going to compete with ourselves from yesterday.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I love that. So you've got coaching that you do. So tell me, I don't know that I knew this about you. You have a coaching service that you provide?
As you become a client, and we are either evaluating your business or getting you into a real estate holding, then you're going to get all of this. We primarily, I've said this before, we are a business consultancy and owner's rep company. We can do the transaction, though we will work with whomever you want to work with for the transaction. There's some efficiencies if you work with us, but it doesn't matter. There's so many great representatives and realtors out there. So it really comes down to it's a mindset thing, and we want you to be successful.
You're naturally coaching them because you have all this background and knowledge that you've learned from all of your clients. So you can't help but provide some of that, I'm sure, as part of the service. So as we wrap it up here, as we think about, your, potential clients, things that you help with, helping them do more of the strategic thinking, do more of the cash flow first. Do you have any examples or things that you would like to share, something that could make this come alive for someone as you think about it, maybe a corporate client? You don't have to name anybody, but speak in generalities around, how did they make a mistake similar to maybe what a homeowner has done? Like, do you have any good stories you could tell us where they became, cash poor, or some warnings, some red flags that you're going in the wrong direction, that you've stepped off the yellow brick road and you need to call Andrea and her team?
Yes.
Probably so many that you can't, you're like, who do I which one do I pull out of the bag?
And to be professional.
Sure.
And provide grace to the companies that are, it's so incredibly painful for those companies, because the
embarrassing.
Clients,
and you're like, I can't believe we made this mistake.
Yeah. The clients that I work with are going to be and are currently the clients that really care about their workforce. Yeah. And
when you make a big mistake, you sometimes have to cut people, because now we have this big building and we can't afford it. And so now I have to lose staff. And that's
it's a red flag, right? Yeah. It is a red flag that if you're not working for a private equity company. It's like, we can totally talk about Wells Fargo. It's a publicly traded company, and Wells Fargo, their primary responsibility is to provide a dividend to their shareholders.
Sure.
And a really, really good way to make the company look good per quarter is to let go of staff.
Sure.
And so there are some people who have worked for Wells Fargo for several years, and they know that's part of the structure of how that business works.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it was a like different business model and they're running into revenue didn't come in as projected or not on time, and they've run out of that cash flow pocket, that liquidity, one of the red flags you would see is that people are no longer working there.
Sure.
And that's usually one of the first things that happens, because their real estate is not as liquid as employees.
Right.
So, I mean, we've got to get this right.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to do this in a really well planned out and thoughtful manner. Mm-hmm. And the place that we can provide the most, and before we're talking about mergers and acquisitions, is that before you're looking at that solution, we want to make sure we reevaluate your holdings, your assets, options, and your liabilities, and all of that. Now, there are some nonprofits that I would believe should go through a merger. It would create efficiencies, and I'm all about efficiencies and getting things done. So, I mean, get your professional representation. Give us a call. We'll see. We'll go through a quick consultation to see if we can help you. And if we can't, I bet we know someone who can.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, as you think about even on an individual side, the first thing you don't do is sell your house. You do other things before you would have to. That's kind of the last thing you get rid of if you have to, right?
Yes.
So I'm assuming it's similar on a corporate side as well.
Very much so.
So tell me a good story where you and team came in and you guys had you brought in your flexibility and your massive amounts of spreadsheets and computing power and brain power and saved the day. Do you have a good story you can share with on the real estate side with respect to that?
Those are also hard for me to tell, because a lot of times it does mean we're pivoting.
Sure.
We talked a little bit in the past, since I've been under my own flag. That furniture mission was the first time we've done that.
Yeah.
The people who were part of the original plan, by no fault of their own, that project just dissolved. And so it was by no real fault, but the game won, right? This team that we have accumulated is fighting against the game, and the game won.
Yeah.
So we actually went back to the board, and the board re-envisioned why they started. And the executive director was brave and courageous and a great leader, and was able to lead the entire community through a pivot. And with nonprofits, it's a little bit more complicated, because it is done by the main leader, a decision maker. It's more of it is a leadership road that those individuals have to bring their boards through, and in that case, the entire community through. But we were able to take a project where the game had said it was more than twice her budget, re-litmus what was really needed in the real estate asset, and bring it back down to below her budget. So twice her budget versus below her budget. And now she will be able to maintain her debt-free organization status.
I love how you position the people, the team against the game. That's what you're supposed to do, is have your team be against the game. I keep thinking in my mind when you say that, like, and I might have to call on my wisdom for this because I didn't play a lot of video games. I remember Mario Brothers, but you level up, right? You level up, and now you got a new game. Now you got a new boss to fight. It doesn't necessarily end.
No.
You need a person like you to help navigate as you level up and fight the game. So that's cool. So we talked about a lot of things, a lot of specific blueprint things today. Anything that you would make sure, double click on before we sign off for episode 3?
Yes. So if you are a company facing a real estate decision, and I would love the opportunity to have a conversation with you, either look at the real estate that you're currently holding, or if you're thinking of a real estate transaction, please give us a call. Give us a chance to look at what you have and see if we can be of service. We will create that same analytical approach to ensure that you have a healthy, wealthy, community-based approach in everything you do.
It's always easier to start at the beginning than get in the middle and try to fix stuff, I would imagine as well. So
yes, but we're really good fixers.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
We love the big, complicated problems, and we will figure it out.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, this is great.
You.
Really good information and helpful blueprint for those of us that are navigating, all these different real estate ideas.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you so much for listening today to this episode of The Blueprint with Andrea Smith. If you found anything in this episode valuable or something that you would like to share with a friend, or you would just like to support my work in creating more content for your awareness in these industries, please like, share, or subscribe. I'd love to connect with you on either through our website at advisetobuild.com or checking any of the links below. Again, thank you so much for tuning in.